Hello, and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Tom Jacobs, you know what we got to start with? A little fist bump. Guido is back in the winner's circle. Holy cow, Tom. I mean, for the love of the show, I apologize. I'm going to apologize. He wasn't on our official betting card. I mean, we just cheer for the guy week in and week out. And to have that Sunday excellence, I mean, it was a thing of beauty. 62 on Sunday, the shot on 18. That was as pure as it gets, Tom. That was beautiful.
That shot on 18 was just ridiculous. Because bearing in mind, I don't think there's been a birdie there all day, right? Like I think that was the first one. And he looked really like locked in. Like it's been a while. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of him in coverage anyway, but like they're just nothing. Like people were like talking to him, nothing. Like even that he was obviously watching it on like Sky Go on delay or something because like Rasmus had already missed a chip and he was like hadn't seen it yet. And like even when they were all like congratulating him, he was just like completely like emotionless. And like even like when he was in the interview, he was like, yeah, so many emotions. I was like, you literally don't sound like emotional at all. It must have just really shocked him. Like I think he knew he was playing better, but probably didn't expect it yet. Like I think he even said as much basically that like, that kind of just come out of nowhere, which, 62 to win is incredible, right? I think it's the lowest final round of any French Open winner. It's been a while since anyone's won with a 62. I know, did Rasmus win a 63 at Crans last year?
Believe so.
Probably similar situation to what we saw yesterday, right? So, wow, amazing, right? Really good to see, especially 1 week after the Italian Open, a couple of weeks into the Ryder Cup qualification. Like, I still find it hard to believe that he'll be on the team. But if he plays like that, then, with the limited pool of players now, like, spots are there. Like, him, Perez, McIntyre, spots are open. So I think he needs to... The thing I want to see from him now is to kind of build from it. Like, I feel like he won those two events, and there was always a bit of talent there that kind of hung over, and he could kind of flash right, and then he just completely lost his game for whatever reason. And I want him to just be one of those consistent types, like be a Rasmus Højgaard, like who even he seems volatile when you look back. I mean, he really isn't. Like he could be a 5-time winner by the age of 21. So. Definitely no way to criticize him. He played, lights out yesterday, but definitely want to see that more often now.
Yeah, and I mean the context of the 62 versus what else was scored by anybody really sniffing of the lead. I mean, he had to do that. Wins by one stroke, everything on the line. But yeah, it was like when you think about what he did in Kenya, and you could really like feel the emotion. You could like. He was just over, exuberated with how the feelings were. And like, this was like not a calm, but like a confident, fist pump, walking it in, like a really, like really good sign. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, I was very concerned, and maybe we need to look at Le Golf National differently moving forward, because it wasn't just Guido who ended up being on the top of the leaderboard, but other power or not accurate drivers, realistically. Now Guido drove the ball substantially better than what he normally does. I mean, from an accuracy standpoint, he was only 5% worse than what he was than field average, which the leading 2 weeks before he was like 16% and 22% worse. So like he needed to pick up that accuracy, and that was the doubt I had. I really liked him for this week way more than I liked him for last week. And we saw the irons. He was third in strokes gained approach the week prior. And then he goes out and leads the field in it. And when his putter is significantly improving, I mean, he literally made everything. Like
he walked one in from like miles away. I can't remember if it was like 16 or 17, right? And he gave it that little like fist pump that you saw.
Like he walks it, yeah.
And it was like, it looked like a player that's been doing it for 20 years, right? And just expects to make those putts. Like, looked like a Rory McIlroy type, fist pump. Like, and you sort of talked about his 62, right? I mean, the next best round was Joachim B. Hansen was 66. Jeff Windsor hit 67, and there was just a whole host of 68s, including Rasmus. So, there was really no room for him to do anything less than what he did. And I think that's what's so amazing. Like, I think about Snedeker at Torrey Pines. I know that's kind of like, weather related and stuff like that, right? But like just from and I was really surprised. I saw it, like, obviously it's the best round of a season in terms of against the field average, but like it was like only like the 54th best or something ridiculous. I can't remember the exact figure. Um, Ever. And I was like, that seems really strange. Like he's beaten at least, most of the field by, the next best by 4 strokes, even so. And to birdie that final hole in that moment when no one else has, like, I felt that was just huge.
Yeah, I mean, anything and everything you could ask for. I think it was just the last 2 months for me. I mean, not to say this gets monotonous, or not to say that, you know, we show up for work every Monday, and I mean, not even work for some of us, as our hobbies to really enjoy getting after this. And at times it's the dog days of summer. At times it's tough, especially with the way the golf world is. But I would say the last 2 months have been really renewing that love, that passion, the interest in. I mean, Guido winning was like, just unreal. Like, just to know him and the way we've gotten to follow him and really get involved that. But then, like, the emotion of the President's Cup followed by that. I mean, that international team was so fun. Tom Kim is just a lightning. Like, he's so cool. It was so good to see. You could see messages. You could see Immelman just sending how much they cared and how much that team experience meant to the internationals. And it was like, okay, like these type of things. I mean, by part of that was Zalatoris winning, and then Tom Kim when he won on that. Like those like 4 things to me over the last couple of months happening has been like, this makes my heart full about the game of golf.
Yeah, like I think for everyone that's been kind of downtrodden about it all, and I think for me, like, I've said what I've said about Liv, and we don't try and get into that too much on the show, right? But like for me, it was always a case of like, look, just focus on the positives. Even if you disagree with this, even if you don't like this, even if it really bothers you, like, just ignore it. Like it can. I know you kind of have to talk about it, you have to touch upon it, but like ignore it from a standpoint of letting it affect your enjoyment on everything else. Like, go and enjoy the FedEx Cup playoffs, go and enjoy the Wyndham for the last PGA Tour cards, enjoy the Corn Ferry Tour finals, enjoy this run of DP World Tour events, because you don't want to miss that just because you have an opinion on the other side. So that's what I try to do. I just try to enjoy it all. And yes, I've had a stake in the other one and said what I've said, but like I just don't focus on it now. I just don't watch it. I don't really, I've spoken to who I've spoken to and stuff like that. But like now it's more of how do we, and we've spoken about this a lot. Like, how do you quantify the players that are coming over from those events to this one? Like, that's the real formula for me now. And maybe that's just because I'm a sports better rather than just a follower. But like, I think that's the biggest challenge now, is trying to quantify what they're doing. So I think golf's in a really good place. Like, obviously, you personally, like, really, really happy with Guido. I enjoyed it. Like it. I think this run of, as I said, we kind of alluded to it a lot. Like, this run of Euro events is amazing. Like, Dunhill Links is huge. Like, we're going to get potentially some weather that could spoil it a little bit, but like that factors into links golf. Like, we enjoy that. So I think it's now just focus on the positives. Like, we've got a year now until we figure out Ryder Cup teams and things like that. And I thought the best thing about the President's Cup was like, if Corey Connors had played well, that changes that dynamic of that game. Like that, it wasn't the absolute annihilation that it looked like it was going to be. Should have been. Like, they had life, and I wonder what Lucas Herbert and Ryan Fox have done to not be on that team. Like, everything that came out was like, we've got all the players that want to be here. So it makes me think that Lucas Herbert didn't want to be there for some reason, and that concerns me a little bit. Or he was just left off, which I still find a bit of a strange decision. Yeah, no, all good, and really exciting event to cover this week.
Yeah. I pulled up as you were speaking there. So Guido's was the 59th best round,
59th.
according to Data Golf, in the history of the DP World Tour. 5 other rounds are inside the top 20 on this season. The second best round. So Guido, they said raw strokes gained was 9.75, true strokes gained 8.69. Below that, the next best round of the year was Hautong in the second round of the Dutch Open. Rasmus's opening round last week was 108th overall DP World Tour. Samoya, when he won at the Porsche earlier this year, that's 135th. And actually, Haotong has two of the best events this season, the opening round of the BMW International as well. So those are the 5 rounds that are inside the top 200 that have happened this year. So really cool for Guido, really cool for all of us. Like I said, Pat put out the back call for the live bet for anyone who hopped on there, but just rooting along. I know some of the followers had tickets. I'm sure a lot of people are excited to listen
great.
in.
Like, sometimes you when you have spoken about someone or you've tipped someone or whatever, and someone's had a significant amount more money on them, or like you stayed off of Guido and they didn't. Sometimes you can be like, oh, what happened here? Like, why am I missing out? But yesterday it was just pure joy. Like, there was 2, 3, 4, 5 people that tweeted us, messaged us that were like, guys, Guido's done it, and it was like, I just really enjoy that. Like, it was really good to see. So shout out to those guys that follow along. We love to see that. We want to see more of it. And unfortunately, it wasn't because we picked him, but I think subliminally you've kind of made people pick him every week. So one last thing I would say on last week is I think it highlights to me the DP World Tour's problem with world rankings. So Guido is still outside the top 100. And Rasmus is I think he was 130th or something ridiculous. And he's been playing really well and won 3 times. I'm a little it does feel like there is a problem that they need to fix there. So if they're really going to unite the 2 tours against Liv, then I think they need to address that for the DP World Tour.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's good, tough sledding for those guys. That, I don't think this is a show to have to get into what could happen to some of this, because it could slide very quickly. So let's hope we don't see that. But without further ado, we go into, I would dare say, this is probably, I would consider it a flagship event of the European 100%. Tour, of the DP World Tour. One of the most, I'd say, 3 popular ones, the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. One that is played about a 3-course rotation. We'll have St. Andrews, we'll have Carnoustie, and we'll have Kingsbarn. Everybody's guaranteed 54 holes. And then we'll have that cut after Saturday, and then Sunday as the final day. It is a Pro-Am style. So you're going to see Rory, I'm sure, playing with his dad this week. You're going to probably see, I think Fitzy's playing with his mom this week, actually. Awesome. Yeah, I think he posted that. But you're going to see celebrities out there. You're going to see just some long, slow Pebble Beach style event that you get there, but with links golf and some of the coolest golf courses that are really out there. We saw, obviously, St. Andrews this year for the Open Championship. So I'm excited for it to come back. I think the forecast gets a little dicey too. I think Friday looked pretty nasty early. You never know with this. There's going to be splits. There's certain courses you probably want on certain days. They're going to stack, I believe, St. Andrews to be on Saturday. I think those guys normally end up, for TV coverage purposes, the big guys play St. Andrews on Saturday. But we got some big boys that are coming over here. I mean, Rory continues his dominance. He's got 2nd and 4th in his 2 DP World Tour events coming back here. Fitzy after that playoff loss. Billy Horschel, Lowry, Hatton, Fleetwood are really kind of that standalone at the top 20-1 and lower. I guess Horschel's a little bit deeper, but higher ranked. Top of the board, Tom. Thoughts?
Look, I think we've been saying this every time he's teed it up. Rory can ruin the event, right, for everybody. For bettors, he's there at 9-2, or what is it, plus 450 over there. That he could absolutely kill the tournament. But I don't necessarily think he will. I think that for me, it's Tyrrell Hatton that kind of stands out. This is a guy that he just plays well where he plays well. He missed his first 4 cuts this event, which is ridiculous to think, because he then won back-to-back in 2016, 2017. And he beat Ross Fisher both times, the poor guy, by 4 and 3 strokes. He was the 54-hole leader again then in 2018, but he lost by a stroke to Lucas Bjerregaard. And then he was the 54-hole leader again last year, and much to my joy, Danny Willett won. So he's been the winner twice and the 54-hole leader twice in the last 5 starts. And the other time he finished 15th. That is just absolutely ridiculous. And then what was he, 11th, I think it was, in the Open Championship this year. So St. Andrews just really is his jam. there was concerns that he wasn't really playing well enough leading up to this. Like I was very much tracking his form just to see what he was going to be like for this, because his price wasn't really going to move either way. So it was kind of like deciding. When I saw Rory was announced, I was like, look, hopefully he gets out to a decent price. That Rory doesn't play every year. So he got out to 20 to 1 over here, which was just huge. Now settled at 16 to 1. I still think that's fine. 8th at the Italian Open, just to me, was enough to sort of give the cement that he has been playing well enough. And you actually look, and he's actually been pretty solid since the Open Championship. Like finished off the PGA Tour season pretty well. So yeah, I love Tyrrell Hatton. I don't think there's anything else really to say on him.
Yeah, I think what was interesting to me is you really gave a really good sell job on Hatton, leading into it would have been the Irish, but you were willing to keep going back at the Scottish, because leading into the Irish, he pretty much had shown nothing.
Yeah.
I guess I say nothing. He did top 13 the PGA Championship, kind of out of nowhere, but then he followed up with a miscut, bad performance at the U.S. Open, and he comes over and the irons hadn't been good, and he does that in the Irish Open. He comes out and he does that again, but then the Scottish and then the Open Championship, realistically, it just was like a switch turned on, and showed up at those style golf courses, and you get to have that opportunity, and that is now, of course, it's priced in. Like it's Hatton 16 to 1 if this is not here. No, probably not. But
no,
you have that faith, you have the trust. And
I wouldn't bet him anywhere else at 16 to 1. Maybe like Abu Dhabi
yeah.
or something like that, but like it would depend who was in the field. But it's just a completely different event. Like to your point, like he was 31st at St Jude. Open was 65. He was 23rd at the BMW Championship, which was tough. And again, he was 6th after round 1, 14th after round 3. So, he's been playing some really solid golf. And yes, the performance at Wentworth was a little bit disappointing, but I think he's a guy that gets thrown off pretty easily. And like that week was just a disaster, like, with the Queen's passing and things like that. So like, it was really hard to gauge what's happened at Wentworth, and we saw it with Fitzpatrick, right? Like I had no faith in Fitzpatrick after that week, and he played really well at the Italian Open, and so did Hatton. So I think now he's just played enough. That 8th place finish at the Italian Open is enough to favour him in this course, or 3 courses.
Yeah, he likes what he likes. I think it's very fair, kind of going with him. Now, what's interesting about this event, and kind of DraftKings prices aren't out yet, but where my eyes are drawn to is kind of this 30s range, and I think I'm not ready to pull the trigger on yet and outright on these guys, but two live golfers are right here. One in Taylor Gooch. Taylor Gooch, in my opinion, is the best player outside of Cam Smith on that tour. Now he's probably the least rootable, or least one that you like to root for to do well. So does that factor into either A, not wanting to bet him and getting him at a decent number, and B, his motivation to play well and kind of have a chip on his shoulder? We actually saw the first live golfer win in OWGR event this past week, Travis Smith, a talent that I actually like quite a bit. Travis Smith did win on the Asian Tour this past week. Gooch at 33s feels very, very fine price. I mean, in the Open Championship, after 2 days, he was inside the top 5. He's continued to excel on the live events. This past week was the one he did the worst. Wentworth obviously played exceptional. So I would not be surprised to see Gooch right in there. And you pair that next to old reliable Louis Oosthuizen. Louis also has done incredibly well in the live events, and I guess incredibly well, you can say, with quotes, about kind of how that stacks up against anything else. It's hard to really know those finishes, but he's done really well with greens and regulation. His ball striking seems to be fitting. Even at the Open Championship, where he missed the cut this year, he was really, really good with the irons, just hadn't had any short game with it. So I don't know. I mean, St. Andrews is where he won, his 2010 Open Championship by about 7 strokes, I think it was. So, like, even though his Alfred Dunhill Links Championship isn't the best, he has 2 top 6 finishes. They are a while ago, so I don't really pull into the fact that he's a course horse in that manner. But those two feel they're probably going to end up like mid 9Ks in DraftKings. Like, I really, really like them there, but I'm not sold on the outrights in that scenario. But I mean, there's some interesting golfers in this range.
So like Louis was like, he won that Open Championship in 2010, second in 2015, losing the playoff to Zach Johnson. I managed to have Zach Johnson and I had Louis and Mark Leishman in that playoff, and obviously Zach Johnson won, so that was good stuff. To your point about Taylor Gooch, like he feels very much like the Patrick Reed now of betting. Like no one really wants to bet him, but they all sort of understand that he is pretty good, and you get an extra couple of points because of it. Like which is nice. I think if you want to bet him, do you want to be cheering him on? Maybe not. I mean, like he's the for all I've said about in defense of some of these guys that have gone over to that, like he's the reason, he's the one that you just can't defend. Like just shut up. Like you're not big enough to do what you're doing, right? Interestingly enough, if you say he's second only to Cameron Smith, then you're obviously saying that he's better than DJ.
I think there's at least a good argument to be made from just a like you run the numbers, trust the numbers. Like Axis thinks Gooch is for sure, and I trust Axis on a lot of things. I mean, Axis, part of the big reason we fell in love with Guido together. Like he's a numbers guy and trust that. So like he grades out. I mean, Data Golf has Gooch still as the 21st plus player in the world, right now. So like,
and I don't disagree with it. What my point is, if you think like that, you should probably bet him because like DJ would be 10 to 1 here.
Yeah, DJ would be very, very low. I think it's interesting. He's one. I mean, the talent. He's a better player than Louis and deserves to be shorter numbered there. I think Bob's also intriguing too. Like, I think he's probably going to get the just like public money. If I would say somebody you show up at the Open Championship, you show up at this type of course, coming in with the form he's finally doing. Bob 33s is good. I wish Peter showed any life on links courses because he's playing so well. It's great to see.
Some of his shots he's hitting are amazing, and some of the short game he's shown is amazing. He still shows that frustration that he said he's got rid of, which he definitely hasn't. I wonder with Louis if it's the extensive rounds, like the pro-am format of the however long they're out there for, 7 hours, like 6 hours, because bad back, right? Like he's just like Jason Day at Pebble, although sometimes Jason Day plays well at Pebble because he gets longer
because he likes it because it's slow.
So it depends how it depends what your take is on that. But like I wonder as well if that's a little bit gets into Bob's head. Like, does he feel the pressure of hosting? Like I said before, that he actually steps up in Scotland, but like if you're the Scottish golfer in a pro-am in a big event and you're a pretty big draw as it is, like maybe that just kind of plays into, I don't know. We struggle so much to try and dive into the mentality of these guys, but like I would say there's a reason why those two guys maybe haven't done as well as we would expect. The one guy from this range that I really wanted to bet, and when I go into my next bet, you will see why I couldn't do it, or I'll explain why I couldn't do it. Like Jordan Smith is just so good right now. Like he's just so good. He's got a 5th place finish at this event in the past. I can't bet 35 to 1 Jordan Smith.
No, because if you're going to bet that, I think you just bet Rosner, right? At double the price, because they're kind of like the exact same thing right now.
Yeah.
In that manner, like, I mean, I think Rosner actually kind of putted a little bit last week, right? He gained strokes.
Yeah, on the final day he gained. The final day, sorry, he was tough, wasn't he? He struggled.
Yeah.
But yeah, like earlier in the week, he'd made some strokes up, but like you look at Jordan Smith, right? He has such a hard time winning. Like he's won once, and he's lost in a playoff to Larafabelle, which is no mean feat. But like when I go to my next pick, like this guy's won 3 times already. Probably should have won 5 times. Like why is he bigger than him?
Yeah, I agree. I thought we might. You said earlier you'd be happy, or you were happy last year hitting Danny Willett at a big number on this. Willett obviously losing in a heartbreaking fashion to Homa at the Fortinet a couple of weeks ago. Now coming here, of course, that he is very comfortable on. If they priced him at 66, I bet we both would have been on
100%.
Willett.
Yeah,
right.
Like, I said to you, I think maybe last week on the show, or I definitely said it on Lost of Words, can't remember now, but like the most annoying thing about Willett playing well and not winning was the fact that he played well enough to suggest that he can win this again, but he made such a mental error that you don't want to back him at 35 to 1. So I'd have rather he missed the cut at the Fortinet and was 66 to 1 here again, because that was how we picked him up last year, right? Like we were looking at the fact that he'd missed cuts, and he missed a bunch of them, but like he was 1 shot away, 2 shots away. He was gaining strokes with his irons. Like it's not hidden anymore. So now he's the price he is, and it's still fair. Like if you're a Willett backer, then still back him. But I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, just the fact that he's shown up 3 events this basically latter half of the year. So he shows up the British Masters, 16th there, and then he shows up at the Omega top 10s that event. Now he did miss the cut at the BMW PGA, which is a little disappointing, but he does show obviously that in the fort. Now that's a lot. Pop it back over and doing that, but yeah, definitely priced in. But now we finally kind of get into our jam of selections here, and kind of can run through this as we go. So Tom, let's lead it off. I believe your guys, 2 of them are a little priced lower than where my first selection is.
Yeah, so for me, like Rasmus Højgaard is the one that I've just been trying to reference the whole time there, right? Like, yes, he lost yesterday, and yes, he made a massive mistake on Saturday, which even made that possible, making that 8 on a par 3, wasn't it? I think he did. But like, I was just looking back, and like, I've actually been a little bit not down on the Højgaard twins, but like everyone was kind of putting them in the Ryder Cup team for Rome, and everyone was kind of, and I sort of said, look, you know, a lot of what they've achieved was during COVID, lots of resort courses. Like, we need to see them in a full season, right? And like both of them kind of struggled earlier in the season, but like now, like Rasmus Højgaard's been so solid, and you look at it, he's already got 3 wins. He's had 2 seconds and 2 thirds, and he should have won last week. Like, I don't think that's unfair to say. Like, we love the fact that Wheeler did it, but he had to shoot a 62 to win by 1. So he should have won last week. He should have won the Kazoo Classic last year when he had a 3-shot lead going into the final round. He needs a big performance in fields like this because, as I've already said, he's 130th in the world rankings. Like, why do we think he can't? I feel like he's priced like he can't play links golf, and we don't know that he can't. And I thought that was really strange. He's played well, you know, at the Scottish, I think it was earlier in the season as well, in a really strong field. I'm pretty sure he was 10th at the Scottish Open. So like, played well in the country before. He hasn't played this event to sort of suggest it. Like, whereas Nikolai's played it and played okay, Rasmus hasn't played it. Is that a factor and he doesn't like it? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. He's like 50 to 1. I just don't get it. I don't understand the price.
Well, if I looked at kind of the way St. Andrews played out this year, now again, St. Andrews is only going to represent 50% of the holes, but
Yep.
I kind of do think this in links course in general, like it's evolving with the game, that the most important factor probably is how well, not even how well, but like I want somebody who can really drive it long. If I had to pick up like Bryson in a sense, he did so well at St. Andrews, drove it long, played well with the short game. Rory drove it long, was dialed in that week with the short game. You saw. I mean, Cam Smith did everything right, but Cam Young hit it long, chip it well. You know, like that is the ideal way because you have way more openness off the tee. So I think that is what Rasmus can do, you know, here and have that upside in it. So yeah, I definitely think kind of that's intriguing. Now, I guess I'll just jump over to me. I'm at 66s for my next one. And I think there's an overall, there's a pattern of the 66 ranges. If you think about who is the first person that flashes in your mind for links golf, you know, I guess there's a couple of them. There's probably 5 that we'll talk about today in theory, but Hatton's definitely in the top range. But Eddie Pepperell has been somebody for the last 5 years that you see these type of elements show up and he's finding a way. And the most intriguing of it to me really was when it was coming out of form for him. You know, if you look at Eddie's kind of recent, I mean, he fell off a cliff basically, right? Like in 20 and 21. Yeah. So he shows up at this course after withdrawing at Wentworth, losing 8 strokes ball striking in a round and a half, you know, basically withdrawing there. You know, the week before that, he was 46th in the Italian Open, miscut at the Omega, T29 at the Kazoo, which is, you know, not a strong event, miscut at the Hero Open, hadn't had a top 10 finish all season long. And you show up in a stacked event and you end up finishing 17th at the Alfred Dunhill last year. You know, like that's meaningful in my opinion, you know, from the way his form is. Then you go back earlier in the year. Heck, he popped one event. He popped one odd event last year, and it was the Canary Islands Championship, and he had some irons. The next week, he played the British Masters, And he arguably should have won that event. If you remember, he goes in 54 hole. I think he has a 54 hole leader that event. I don't really want to go into that event because that was also the event Guido lost, but we had every bet covered on that board. We
Yeah.
had Guido, we had Pepperell, we had Eduardo Molinari. Like that was the week that, and you stuck with what you knew about Eddie. He popped the week before, and it was there. It was there. Eddie can do that. So you see that trust and that faith, especially when you get into these type of events. And Eddie has popped. He's had a great run, probably the best 6-week stretch Eddie has had. I mean, since the Players of 2019, probably pre-COVID, right? Where he was third at the Players, second at the British Masters, fourth at the Irish Open, like top 20 at the Heritage. Like this has been the best 6-week stretch of Eddie Pepperell golf that we have seen since then. And I think I trust Eddie in these elements, and I want it there. So he doesn't hit the style. He's more of a Cam Smith when it comes to the links type of golf. But man, I really, really like Eddie this week.
Yeah, you go back like last 15 weeks and saw it second in approach. And that's in a field that includes Rory, Fitz, Tyrrell, Fleetwood, everybody, Peters, Bob. So that's really impressive in itself. His irons have been so good. My only doubt with him is so he came. So I can't remember where it was. We picked him, and he came second. He was great in the final round, and whoever it was that won was just better. Was it the week Crocker won?
It was Hero Open, I believe
when Crocker won, right? So he and I remember him saying just how good Crocker was and how happy he was for him. So it felt like he threw everything at that, gave it his absolute best and finished second. And I just wonder if we're going to see like a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever. So DraftKings wise, I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think he's probably one of the safer plays. It's going to be in the range that he's in. He's going to be popular for a reason, but I think you can play it. I think he'll play well, and I think he will be there Saturday, and then it just depends what he does over the final 2 rounds. I don't have any doubts on him in terms of I think he's going to blow it. That's not what's factoring into one at all. It's more, will he get to the position? Will he be in a position to win?
Yep. I think that's very fair. I think that's fair, and I guess I'll take the opportunity cost and hope you run hot on the Sunday and you get there at a place. I can live with a place when you kind of look at this next golfer you're in on. I am debating as I'm looking into more. I see if I'm trusting you. Obviously, we have these conversations every week. I trust Brad Todd. Love what Brad does, and Jason and Ben, and you guys align on Thorbjorn Olesen. And I didn't really see the path initially. Maybe somebody who's not statistically that shows up for me often, kind of what I look for. But sell me on Olesen because I'm very intrigued here.
So Olesen has won this event. He's also finished second. So that's a great start, right? He's already done that. Last week he was first for tee to green, 7th in approach, which is huge. And then when you look at it, that's his second top 10 approach week in the last 4 events. All those off the field issues that he was having now gone. Interestingly enough, maybe why he doesn't show up necessarily is because apart from the win in the second, he's not done a lot here. So his best finish off that was 45th. So 45th, 50th, 58th, and 3 missed cuts. But there was a decent period of time where he didn't play it. And I just think that this kind of event, actually, we always look for these links specialists, right? And, you mentioned with Pepperell there, and we're going to mention people later on, and we mentioned Hatton already. I do think this event does reward just the people that are playing the best golf. So we've seen Bjerregaard win, we've seen Perez win, we've seen people like that win. So I think that the way he's playing over the last few weeks, what we know about Olesen in terms of how good he is in contention, just the way he shot the ball last week, everything about him I really like. And the fact that he's got those memories to draw from, he's not going to, because you mentioned at the start of the show, this is a flagship event. It's not marked as one because Wentworth is, but this is a huge event for people. And the fact that he's got that experience of winning it in the past, beat Houghton Lee and David Horsey by 3 strokes. I think he's great. I think you look at the people that he's beaten: Chris Wood, Victor Dubuisson, Brooks Koepka, Houghton Lee, Francesco Molinari, Soderbergh. He's just a really big time player, and the only time he's lost in a playoff was to George Coetzee in Mauritius. So he's just a really big game hunter. I do think eventually he can get back to his best and actually start competing in WGCs and majors, whatever's left of WGC now. But I think he can get himself back onto sort of PGA Tour level, and to do that, he needs to use this kind of springboard.
Yeah, I like it. I'm there with you. I can add it. I feel comfortable, and it's a sneaky, like, really good year he's had. It definitely is something that you don't look. But you look at the race to buy, he's 20th. There he's got the win. He's got plenty of top 20s.
He has been inconsistent still. Like, even his win was like, he made like those 2 ridiculous birdie eagle finish and 2 bombs. Like, he shouldn't have won that event, right? So, like, I think there's always a little bit of a lack of belief in Olesen, in the sense that I don't know when he's going to do it, and he's not really priced how I want him to be priced. But he's got a win and a second place finish on this event, and it's a unique event to start with. And I know it's 2 of 6 of the times he's been here, or whatever, like 2 of 7 times. But I just think the price. I mean, he was 90-1 earlier over here, which was absolutely ridiculous. 66-1 now, which I still think is great. The upside of Olesen is a win. We know that he's got 6 of them on the debut odds.
Yeah, so he's 70s over here. So that's going officially on the card. All right, let's see here. So if we keep on going down, I think your next is still triple digits, right?
Yes.
You keep going here. Okay, so I'm not going to come out here and tell you all to just be weekly re-adding Guido Migliozzi to the card without proper discussion and talking through it. But we're looking at a golfer who obviously won last week, who was first in approach, third at approach, who, I mean, similar to Eddie in a way. If you look at what 2021 was, there was some better flashes. Now he had that stretch, second, fourth, 13th. He kind of sandwiched his close of the year with some struggles, and that really one place he found success there was here, 17th place finish. I personally think Guido sets up very, very well when it comes to Open Championships. I mean, you just don't have to worry about the driver, and that if you go to events where you don't have to worry about the driver, then it's like home cooking, in my opinion. But the thing is, he's now played exceptional in back-to-back weeks where it is or 2 out of 3 weeks where it was crucial.
Yeah.
Wentworth, and then the Golf National. I mean, you have to drive the ball, and he's not even driving it that well, and he's still competing and winning and getting there. So, of course, coming off a win, it's not easy. But Tom, I mean, why is Bob half the price of Guido in this scenario? Maybe make Guido 50 or 60s, maybe, and I wouldn't be as tempted. But he's 80s. He was 100. He was 100 overseas this morning.
100. I think it was 125-1 very early. And the reason being is because people just don't think he can win 2 weeks in a row. And everything, percentage wise and model wise, everything suggests that he can't win 2 weeks in a row. And I probably agree, right? But when you're getting basically 100-1 or 80-1, whatever you're getting, about a guy that has finished 17th on his golf course, is probably the most suitable of the last 3 that he's played, and he's won one of them and competes at the other, to your point. I mean, why not? I mean, he's one of the reasons why, I'll just say now, I'm not on Matthew Southgate yet. I still think, I mean, I put him on the card last week because I didn't want to miss out, and it could happen again this week because it's the sort of his golf course. But how is Matthew Southgate that's nearly the same price as? I mean, it's a British thing. It's a these guys are better at links than Guido Migliozzi. He doesn't necessarily strike you as this guy that's going to play really well in tough conditions and things like that. So maybe it's a little bit of that, but whatever. I don't get it. The ball striking's there. The course is best suited to him. Very much, I think, in the mold of Olesen, a similar kind of a player, right? They can get really hot with their irons. They can drive the ball well enough. They can get streaky with the short game. So I don't think there's two different really. And one of them's just one, and one of them's the best ball striker last week.
Yeah, I love it. Waking up and seeing that number. And I think for a run of golf here, if we're not seeing him, 40s and lower, I think it's always worth definitely kind of looking at it. Just, I mean, of course, getting a win secures your card, in that manner. But he went from basically being. We could have been looking at Guido without a card. He was like a bad 2 months away from having to go to Q school.
And that could have been literally the reason why there was a downturn in form. Like he struggled during COVID, or like whatever. Like maybe he just felt the pressure and didn't know how to deal with it. Like he's still young, like he's still pretty new. Like people forget how new he is really to the tour in the grand scheme of things. Like maybe that pressure, how now it's going to be, how is he going to perform now that's all locked up? Like, is he going to relax off and not put in the hard yards and maybe just slip off a bit? Or is he now going to be completely freed up and just play his best golf? It can go one or two ways, and you're getting nearly 100 to 1 for that. Then I'm happy to find out. I'm not on him, but I can see why.
Yep, absolutely. We could pick up the pace a little bit here as we kind of close. I guess I still have pre-selection, so I'm going to be the one who has to talk quick. But let's dig into triple digits here.
So mine are very quick. Like I'll just rattle mine off and then we'll let you finish up. So Ewan Ferguson for me, like he's already had 2 wins this season. Could have easily been 4. Ollie Wilson dropped a bomb on him on the 17th hole in Himmerland, and he threw it away in Kenya when he had a 4-shot lead. He's now come back to Scotland. Again, back to the what does McIntyre do that Ferguson doesn't, right? I mean, McIntyre's won in better company. Ferguson definitely would have to make a step up, but he's finished 17th here in the past already, and he was inside the top 10 for the first 3 rounds. So this is a guy that conceivably could have been a 4-time winner this season. Now, you could, if I'm saying that he could have easily had those 2 wins, you could easily take the 2 wins he's had back off of him. But he went wire to wire in one of them. So and the other one, he was a bit unlucky not to take home with Ollie Wilson. So I just really like the price, like triple digits about Ewan Ferguson, similar to Migliozzi. They just don't think they can win again. And then the other one, it's a rogue one, and I think it's maybe best for top 10s and top 20s, but I'm going to go all out on the outright with Alex Fitzpatrick, the other Fitzpatrick.
He's been good, sneaky good.
I've been really, really impressed with him. Like, he's been playing in Canada and doing okay, and then he's come over and taken, like, he's been given invites, like, and he's going to be given invites because he's Matt Fitzpatrick's brother, right? But he was the 4th best amateur in the world at his peak. I think I checked earlier. He was offered live, turned that down to take advantage of these invites. Missed the cut of the Irish Open, but then the last 2 starts, 27th for the Italian Open and 13th in France. And it was last week he struck the ball so much better. So he was 11th in strokes gained approach and 9th overall tee to green. And I just think that he could make a real splash in this. Like, we've seen one of your golfers you're going to go on to make a splash in this earlier in their career, and it kind of lasts. And one thing I'd say is that if he's anything like Matt, then Matt hasn't played that well here. But I don't think you can just combine the 2 together. Like, you wouldn't just combine the Molinaris together and things like that, right? So I love what he's been doing. Like, there's a lot of pressure on him to perform well. His brother's just won a major championship. He's getting all these invites. 300 to 1. And he's finished, 27th and 13th his last 2 starts. And we don't know that he's not good at links golf. Like, I have reasons to think that he could be. So I will take that price.
Yeah, what I found interesting, if you remember, I said specifically on the show, there was only one other golfer that was worse in accuracy leading into the event than Guido, and it was Fitzpatrick. So Fitzpatrick, Alex, and he significantly improved that. He was better than 12% wise for accuracy for him in his last event. So, like, that's an improvement. And so to do that well at a course that I didn't think he would fit him at all is even more compelling of a reason. So yeah, I'm excited for Alex. There's definitely been golfers who have popped on here on debut or shortly after coming up from amateurs. I think of Harry Hall. Harry Hall did that here. Played with Rory on Sunday, I believe, beat him, or at least was right there in the mix. And Harry, obviously now on the PGA Tour. If I think of Eddie Pepperell and that, you have Southgate. And you can even talk, I want you to talk about the links just champ, I guess, one of the best players at Alfred Dunhill links after this. But there's one that's the older age. And then if I find the youngest one, in my opinion, who has just shown up links course after links course after links course, that's Matthew Jordan. Matthew Jordan is not somebody I really enjoy backing because Sundays haven't been friendly for him. But, it was on the Challenge Tour. It was on here on the DP World Tour. It was on the PGA Tour. Where did Jordan end up finishing? Let's see. I think it was the week before the Open Championship. Yeah, Scottish Open. He made the cut, which was pretty dang good for him to make a cut. He was 24th the Irish Open. So, that's a big event. and then of course, he kind of just continued to really in those Alfred Dunhill, I think it would have been what year was that? 19, where Jordan
Where
played
he finished
and popped up.
fifth.
Yeah, he finished fifth
Yeah, but he'd
after
actually played the year before as well.
so he had played two DP World Tour events that year, and he was 15th at the British Masters, and then he was fifth at the Alfred Dunhill. I guess he had played some earlier swing season events at the final two of that year. Man, he really, really kind of lit it up. I don't know. I just think, the 42nd the year before when he was an amateur. Like, I just think Jordan is the epitome of a links golf young player who could show up this event, and like Eddie has shown flashes. Missed a cut on the number last week, but if you looked at the week before, 23rd to Wentworth, and then fourth at Himmerland there too, where he was very well in the mix. Just has probably his best year yet since kind of finding some rhythm there, and I think he could definitely do it here. So that's the first one for me. Second one is I'm going back to the Yannick Paul well. Yannick played exceptional through 54 holes. All he did was par on Sunday, so it was disappointing because he would have needed Guido's round to win, of course. But Yannick continues to play exceptional well. Now, you don't really know what Yannick looks like when it comes to. I guess he played the Irish Open and made the cut, but you don't really know it true. 16th at the British Masters for him. Irish Challenge when he was on the DP World Tour, he finished fourth. British Challenge in 2021, he finished third. So I think, if you had to kind of ping pong it on events he'd played on lower tours and done well, you think he's okay in that setting. So I absolutely trust going to Yannick. He's 110s over here. So those are my two there before I go way long. But let's talk one more golfer on your end that you kind of debated on the card, or you think probably is a killer DraftKings play.
Yeah, look, you had Southgate, and then Lagergren, like, he's just ridiculous,
yes.
right? Like, Joachim Lagergren, he's played here 6 times, he's missed 1 cut, and then the other times he's finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 4th, and 12th. Like, for some reason, he just likes playing this golf course, or these sets of golf courses and links golf in general. Like, he plays well in wind-affected places. So I don't have any confidence in him because you can't because of the numbers and the way he's playing, but the intangibles suggest that he's going to play well here for whatever reasons. If you can get a big number on him, if you can put him in low price in DraftKings, then do it. Same with Southgate. Like, Southgate's, I think, missed 3 or 4 cuts here, but then finished 2nd. Like, it's just really tough to see. But to your Jordan point, like, he was 32nd on his debut before that 5th place finish, and he'd actually opened with a 77, which I imagine was probably at Carnoustie. I don't know. And then shot 67, 66 to get into 20th place, and then just shot 74 on the final day. Then finishes 5th, despite the fact that he was the 36-hole leader, struggled on the Saturday shooting 71, and then came out with 68 on the final day. So he has missed 2 cuts here since, and I just don't believe in him in terms of winning. But I think he's a really strong play for, top 10s, top 20s, and DraftKings.
Yeah, makes total sense. So I got one final pick, and then we can throw some quick hitters at guys. So your podcast guest who kind of stirred up the most controversy you've probably had to run into on your show, but I think Peter Uihlein at 150s is incredibly intriguing this week. I don't view him in the same light as some of the other golfers who made the leap, and he talked about that on kind of your show. But Uihlein, 2nd place last live event. And if I think of the golfer who, from a distance standpoint and kind of a course fit, like, I think Uihlein does it. He led live in distance last week. He's kind of longer off the tee in that manner. It's not that far removed from like competing on the Korn Ferry Tour, right? 2nd place and 17th in the 2 Korn Ferry Tour events that he played this year. He didn't really show anything on the PGA Tour when he played there, but he won an event in 2021 on the Korn Ferry Tour. So you get 150s on that. You get a 2nd, a top 10 in the Asian Tour, a 3rd in the first live event. Like, he's been fine, nothing outstanding, nothing bad. But then you partner that with his links success when he did cut his teeth on the DP World Tour, the European Tour back then. 2nd place, I believe, was his 2013 finish here. Irish events he did pretty decent on, kind of early in that career. So like, he has a familiarity more than a lot of other guys, at least, of his age and kind of the way he's kind of gone. I just think it's sneaky hidden in that kind of come up out here.
he said to me he's got a love-hate relationship with links golf. He said to me that like he relishes the idea of doing it, and by the time he's played it for 4 weeks, he can't wait to get out because he's hit pure 6 irons and they've just bounced and gone the wrong way and stuff like that. But like
Yeah.
he lost in a playoff to David Howe in 2013, lost on the second hole. Like you say, he won a Corn Ferry event last year, and he also lost in a playoff to Carl Yuan in a playoff earlier this year on the Corn Ferry Tour as well. So he's not far removed from being good. There's a reason he's invited to this event, like because he had to get an invite. So that's an interesting dynamic in itself. I just hope that he can focus. Like it just depends how he gets treated, right? And I imagine with him, the circle that he keeps, I think that he would only really speak to the people that are going to be fine with him. And I think 90% of players are fine with him, and the others have to not be because they're in the public eye, and it's as simple as that. So yeah, I think he'll be okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think 150s is very fair when you kind of have that speculation around it. So I'm going to just run through a couple golfers deeper down because this invitation list is definitely odd from the golfers who are playing here due to some of those exemptions. We're seeing Callum Hill for the first time in a long time. I did want to note that. So good to see Callum Hill back. But if you kind of go into golfers from other tours, Alexander Knapp is probably the best Challenge Tour golfer that is getting an invitation here. Obviously, Patrick Harrington is ripping up the Champions Tour right now. Like I said, I mentioned Knapp. Takumi Kanaya is playing once again. Jocko Allers is coming off the top 10. I guess 2 top 10s in his last 3 events at the Sunshine Tour. Really intrigued by Trent Phillips. Trent Phillips is playing this week. He was a top 10 amateur out of Georgia this year, playing as well on that Forum Tour or the Mackenzie Tour in Canada. Was first round leader. His last round event there ended up finishing 5th, but he had 3 top 5s, I believe, in his last 6 events. 2 other top 5s earlier in the year. Oliver Hundable is back. He continued to make cuts. Albert Venture coming off of I believe Venture's on the Sunshine Tour. He has 4 top 10s in the last 6 events there. Neil Shiddukat, 3 top 20s in a row, 3 weeks there. Casey Jarvis, Casey Jarvis was a top class amateur. He had won on the Big Easy Tour earlier this year, was first round leader last week, or actually, he's first round leader 3 weeks ago on the Sunshine Tour, inside the top 5 after 2 rounds, but had a tough Sunday there. That's quickly going through a lot of them.
Casey Jarvis was the one I found really intriguing from that kind of invite list that you rattled off there. Obviously, Hundable we've seen do stuff earlier in the year, but that Trent Phillips score is interesting because I think wasn't that Fortinet Championship to get a Corn Ferry Tour card for
he should be on Corn Ferry Tour next year. Yep.
So like we've already seen what players coming over from that level of tour does. Maybe not the Mackenzie Tour, the Forum Tour, but the Corn Ferry Tour guys coming over. So I think that's huge. I mean, we saw Paul Barjon play so well. You referenced in the show last week. Like that, if he's that type of level of player, then he could be really successful. I do think Marcel Seams is an interesting one for long shots, but I just in terms of just pure bets, I haven't got to him. But I think he's good for DraftKings.
Perfect. So we'll round it out here. And of course, if you are an audio listener, you can find us on all of your podcast platforms. Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. Rate, review, subscribe goes a long way for us. We have some more fist pumping, hopefully in our future, with some outright wins there. So we appreciate all your support. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe goes a really long way for us. Tom, can you close us out with your card?
Yeah, so for me, it's Tyrrell Hatton there at 16-1, 18-1, whatever it is that you can still get. Rasmus Højgaard at 50-1. Thorbjørn Olesen, I think he's still 70-1 over there with you guys. Ewan Ferguson, don't know quite what price he is with you now, but triple digits should be 100-1. And Alex Fitzpatrick at 300-1.
Awesome. I'll be going with Eddie Pepperell, 66-1. Thorbjørn Olesen with you. I'm jumping on there at 70-1. Guido Migliazzi, 80-1. Yannick Paul, 110-1. Matthew Jordan, 125. And Peter Uihlein, 150. We're going to have a great week ahead of us on the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. We appreciate all your support. And let's come back with another Twitter triumphant Sunday, Tom. I would love that for us.
Coffee golf, I think, is what you guys call it over there. Coffee Links golf, I think it was Axis put out that earlier. Excited for you guys to wake up and watch it with coffee. I'm excited to just watch it in general. So looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll talk to you next week. Take care.